Welcome to A Well-Designed Business with your host, LuAnn. LuAnn has a lifetime of experience building a multi-million-dollar business with her husband and cousin, and she knows the challenges you face in your interior design business. LuAnn brings you real-life answers to your most pressing problems, as well as practical strategies to explode your interior design business. So, let's get to the business of interior design.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business and Power Talk Friday. I have Adam Urbanski on the show with me today. Hi Adam, thank you for coming on the show.
Hi, LuAnn. Thanks for having me.
I'm very happy. Most of my peeps out there probably don't realize what a headliner you are, but in podcast circles and in online marketing circles, you are a big catch for me. So I'm very excited.
Well, thank you.
So, and just to let everybody know who maybe doesn't know who you are known as the Millionaire Marketing Mentor, and you are the go-to guy for coaches, consultants, and other service professionals who want to attract more clients, convert more high-value sales, build an authority brand, and grow a lifestyle business that makes bigger impact and generates more income. Your clients have often doubled, tripled, and even 10 times their business, sometimes in as little as 90 days. All right. And the thing what I know from listening to many podcasts that you've been on, that you actually started out with $194, a limited ability to speak English, and was able to turn that first business into a 7-figure business in less than 10 years. So I'm going to tell you what, I know that I'm sitting in the presence of a true expert here. And I'm very grateful that you're coming on and, going to share some tips with us and help my buddies out there, my interior design friends out there, do some of the things that you've helped other consultants and businesses. And what we've discussed is, I'm going to share with everybody, Adam, we had to take almost 20 minutes before the air, pushing the record button, because there are a dozen different ways that you really could help and influence my designer friends out there to have just a tweak, a something that could make their business better. And so we had to narrow it down because it's one episode, but we came up with, you have a thing that you call Dream Business Design Process. And what you do with this is you help us identify what we want to sell the most and how to sell to the most clients. And I thought that could be a good fit for the interior designers listening. Do you want to give us a little bit about what that is and how we're going to get started and pull this topic apart?
Sure. Well, you know what? It's kind of interesting because just like you mentioned, our conversation, 20 minutes to just narrow down what the heck we want to talk about, right?
Right.
Now, that leaves so many possibilities out there, and one topic could relate to some of the audience, one topic could relate to one of the audience. So because this is a podcast, we're looking to please or appease or excite and inform the largest segment of your listeners. We're looking for topic that would be of interest to all of them. But in business, it's the opposite. If you try to please everyone, you end up with no one as a client. And then and we have to also factor in, where are you in your business? If you're completely brand new, look, you may be saying yes to everything just to get the experience and get some momentum going on. But the moment you start getting a little bit of traction, you want to start being discerning by what do you offer and who you offer it to. You want to become a master of a very specific approach. That's what you want to be known for. Just to give you a little bit different from a different industry, but I think it might make a point clearly.
Okay.
I once worked with a translator who was fluent in 9 languages, and she was sort of mad that that no one was referring to her. So there are other people that only translate in one language, and when they need one of my languages, they don't refer to me. And I don't know why. And I said, look, they're threatened because you're a master of everything. So if they send you a client, you take that client for everything because you've got 9 languages. They have 1. Now, if you became known for 1 language, then all of a sudden you become referable. So that's the dream business design worksheet. How do we make you? That doesn't mean you can't translate for the other 8, but you become well known for the 1. So what do you become well known for? Who are the type of clients you want to ideally do business with? And what do you have to focus on to bring those clients in? And this 6-question worksheet allows you to zero in on that.
Oh, okay. So I will just tell you that we have talked about niching a lot on this podcast because we do understand the value of niching and how it can drive more business, just like your example with the woman who is a translator. But I think that many designers, I'm going to say I know, I still get questions on how do I figure out what to niche in? So I'm understanding that's what your little 6-point thing is going to help us try and get some clarity, right?
A little bit.
Okay.
I think it's actually it's parallel to niching, but it's not quite the same. So if we could talk about, let me just chime into this. So when I first got started, I just wanted to help small business owners, and then I realized riches are in the niches. Well, let's narrow it down. So my target market. So my market became, and small business owners. My target market became service professionals. My niche, as I continued to work with clients and I was watching who is emerging, who is coming in, who I can serve the most, who I enjoy working with the best, became mostly consultants and coaches. And that does not mean that other people from other industries do not come into the mix, but that's the market I work with the most. And as time goes on, I became even more focused on business-focused coaches and consultants, right?
Right.
But then there was the last segment, so target market, niche, and the last segment became ideal client. And funny enough, LuAnn, for whatever reason, for the longest time, my ideal client, now look, I'm a high school grad, never went to college, barely speak English. And my ideal clients, people who were emerging and I had the best success with, were people who were very highly educated, typically at least one MBA, typically MBA, one PhD, sometimes 2 PhDs. There were women who had grown-up kids, recently divorced, and they were highly educated, recently jumped the corporate career and wanted to translate the PhD into some sort of business. And there was another criteria. They didn't mind my thick Polish accent, and they laughed at my Polish stupid jokes.
That is a very specific ideal client, Adam.
No kidding, huh? And I had a lot of them.
Now, are you explaining that just through the process of being in business that this emerged and you looked around and went, wait, these are by and by the biggest majority of my clients? Or are you describing it the other way, that you had one client or 2 or 3, and you realized that it was the most satisfying relationship with a client that you had, so then you niched more towards it? Which is chicken or the egg, right?
Yes, the latter. So it's like I was simply observing what's going on, who is coming, who is naturally attracted for whatever I was doing naturally. These were the people that are coming. And because I did enjoy working with them and I was getting them great results, I started asking, well, how do I multiply this? And then consciously, I started tweaking all my marketing, all my languaging, all my case studies, all my testimonials to feature those kind of clients. So today, I've been in this business for 17 years, and about 90% of my audience are women. Right? I just did a 4-day training with, 90% of the audience in the room, women. And often I invite colleagues to speak on a specific subject, and they walk into my room and they take a step back. We're like, whoa, what's going on here?
Where's all the dudes?
Typical internet marketing conference. You've got mostly guys and 5% women. I've got a flip-flop. And they go, what's going on? I'm like, well, I consciously created my entire marketing machine to attract that audience. I'm probably like one of the only guys who had that large of a female following. And but it was done by design.
Okay. So just so I understand, I just want to say it again. So what you did was, after being in business X amount of time, you looked and noticed that the most satisfying relationships and the most satisfying outcomes for your clients happened to be in this demographic, and you noticed that you had maybe more of those than the others. And then when you realized that that was your ideal client, that you liked that process with that particular client, then you incorporated marketing and language to target them specifically? Before it happened naturally, but then you were like, hey, this is working for me. This is my happy place. This is their happy place. For whatever reason, this is very symbiotic. And so now let me go about and intentionally attract more of this exact, very specific, female, educated, divorced, recently left the corporate world executive, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
You talk a lot about, I know that you're a big fan of sales. I mean, no one is in business for as long as you are without mastering the art of selling. And the art of selling is all about listening first and foremost.
Right.
Well, marketing isn't it different? You just listen to the market at large, and the market will tell you what they want from you. And I'm not saying become something and somewhat you are not,
right?
But more, it's essentially like you are a gift. And what you want to do is, you can gift someone a gift for birthday or for Christmas, and they will enjoy both of them, but the wrapping paper will be different.
Okay.
And the wrapping is what starts attracting you to your target market, to your niche, to your ideal client. So when you listen to the market, they will tell you what wrapping they are looking for the most.
I like that. I like that analogy. Okay. I just got a visual on that. I totally get that. So we as a business person, interior designer, we are who we are, but by the way we wrap ourselves up, it's going to attract this person or that person to us more easily. One will respond to one way and another will respond to another wrapping, another marketing.
Absolutely.
Okay. Makes sense. Totally makes sense. So what do you do now, Adam? Do you help us look like you did and notice who we are naturally attracting, or are you going to help us? We have to figure that out ourselves, and then you help us craft our message once we figured it out. Which way are you helping us today? Because I know you could probably do both.
If it were only that lineal, red pill, blue pill. You know what? Why don't we just go through the form? And
okay.
I think I'm going to give you a head start in this whole process.
Okay.
By a little bit of kind of internal/external analysis.
Okay.
And we will translate it into message at the very end.
Okay.
All right. So I recommend take a piece of paper, blank piece of paper, divide it in half, vertically, and then in thirds horizontally.
Okay.
I might have reversed it. And it doesn't matter. You need to have 6 fields in there. All right. From Poland, vertical, horizontal. I'm not as versed.
Vertical is up and down. Horizontal is side to side.
Okay, so up and down you have two halves, right?
Okay.
And side to side you've got 3 fields. You've got 3 rows and 2 columns going on. That's
okay.
All right. All right. So let me give you the headings to each of the fields, and then we're going to go in detail into it. All right. So the first one on the upper left is your dream work. Okay. The upper right is your dream income per client.
Okay.
The middle left is dream client. Middle right is your superpowers.
Okay.
Lower left, dream numbers. And lower right, attraction activities.
Okay.
All right?
Yes.
Now, I love this stuff. When people really get into this is absolutely.
Oh, I'm writing it down. I have my whole thing. I just drew it out. I didn't, because it'd be too noisy on air to fold my paper up. But I'm ready. Let's go.
So, dream work. In every industry, in every field, for all of us, we can do a lot. But then there's what is the type of work that is easy, enjoyable, and fun that you ideally want to do? So we talked about it off air for a moment. If you want to design nothing but kitchens and kitchen is like your domain, why not just say, look, I want to, I turn kitchens into, some magical, culinary art castles. Right? What is it that's your magic? Do you prefer to do one room? Do you prefer to do a home makeover? Do you prefer to do makeovers for people that are creating it for themselves? Do you prefer to do new construction? Do you prefer to do, makeovers or redesigns for people that are prepared to sell? Mm-hmm. What is it that you do so uniquely well that if you were to do not only that, time stops?
Right.
Time stops, magic happens, you enjoy it, clients are absolutely raving. They're like, wow, how did you do that? And you almost like brush it off, like, oh, this, that's not a big deal.
Right. Right.
What is that kind of dream work?
Okay.
Could you, so LuAnn, I'm curious, do you have something that's like this in your business?
Well, I would say at this stage, what I really, really love is the marketing of it, is figuring out new ways to market the business, and, the new ideas and things like this, learning about this and just getting these ideas in me and then back out of me. So,
so you've achieved a level of master where you transcended your own field, and now you actually are an expert to others in your field.
wow, I love that. Thank you. Okay. But
Well,
I
that's
mean,
what it is. I mean, after 40 years, I'm not surprised.
I guess, yes, because, look, if we're going to be completely honest right here, is there a lot of juice that comes from creating a window treatment at this point? Not really. What I still love being in Window Works, because here are the things that I love about Window Works still. I love teaching Kimberly. I love watching her go through the things that I went through 25 years ago when she learns a new, like my saying to her, well, you only make that mistake once. I remember when I made it. Like, you know what I mean? And so, I love when you see a new idea pop and she gets a new way to do an install or a new whatever. And then I also love the collaboration with the interior designers, because that collaboration very often includes a conversation about how to build their business and how to do their business better. So we're there to do window treatments. But at this point, I guess it is because after 30 plus years, I have some experience and they're picking my brain for it. So the actual, let's, create a beautiful window treatment has sort of become, I can do that, but this is exciting to do. Let's do this. So I'm
curious, have you actually started teaching others in your industry how to do what you do?
Only through the podcast so far.
Interesting, because
yes.
I see a path for you. I mean, this is kind of where you're heading, and it's a very natural process.
Right.
And anyway, so
we're getting a little therapy session. Thank you. Okay.
No, not really. It's just I'll be excited. I mean, I bet there are lots of people out there sitting on the sideline listening to your podcast and watching you from afar, going like, "Man, if I could only tap into LuAnn's head for like a day, man, I would fast forward by light years."
Right. Well.
So. Yeah. So that's number one. What's your dream work, right? And you want to identify this. And again, when you talk, I'm certain you've had experts that you talked about niching. One of the difficulties is that as human beings, we are wired for more, not less. And sometimes we feel like, oh my God, I've got so much. If I just narrowed it to one thing, I'm leaving opportunities behind. And it feels counterintuitive. But actually more becomes less.
Okay.
Because you become better and better at it. Number two, you want to ask yourself, what is your dream income per client? So if a dream project came in, how much do you ideally want each client to invest to work with you?
Okay.
So you see, this is such an important question. Because if you don't know that, then you don't even know where to start looking for clients. Now, if you're looking for clients that have $5,000 budget, you're going to look for them in very different places than clients who have a $50,000 budget.
Right.
By the way, totally interesting. I just remembered. I just met a person, a young lady. She's 20. She might be late 20s, maybe early 30s. She is actually my niece's friend. She lives in Dubai. And she actually does interior design as her own business, and she works for the Prince of Dubai, the Sheikh of Dubai, whatever, the royal family.
Right.
So it's interesting because they essentially have unlimited budget. Whatever they want, from whatever part of the world, it's like, no problem. Fly it in, pay whatever it costs, because, hey, for them, money grows on trees.
Right. That's like a nice ideal client.
But if you don't know how much you want to make per client, again, you don't know where to start looking. So write that down. I want my ideal project to be X. I want my ideal project client to pay me X per project.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So again, if we were to throw it back to you, what do you have a number? What would be an ideal project size?
Well, I mean, well, that's hard to say. I have to. Well, that's hard to say because it depends on. Well, I guess, that's hard to say. I mean, what's funny is because we very regularly have projects that are over 100,000. And that probably surprises a lot of people with window treatments. But we also sell awnings. But on both sides of it, we very often have that project. But when you say, what do I really want? The reality is that project can take a lot of time in order to execute and get done well. And my business model isn't that, hey, like an interior designer can sign on for a full house design build, say, and they can manage their pipeline so that they are not overrun while that project is on their lap. But my business model, the way it is set up retail, I could be working on that $150,000 project. And I have one now that's over $100,000 window treatment project. But I also have $200,000 worth of projects in my pipeline that are anywhere from $300 to $10,000. So I wouldn't say, oh, my ideal project is a $100,000 project, because if I had more than 2 or 3 at a time, in addition to my regular workload, you'd have to put a needle in my vein and put me down, because I could. You know, so it's funny, but at this point in time, I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, I want to give up all projects under 100,000 and just concentrate on $100,000 projects, because that really wouldn't be satisfying. I don't think that would be a business model that we would want. I don't know. I think it's harder for me.
You're in an interesting place because you've been at it for so long, and it's more than just you. You've got a team.
Right. I have to keep the wheels moving.
Exactly. You see, you actually could have more than one sheet designed like this.
Okay.
You could have 2 or 3 customer avatars and ideal projects.
Makes sense.
And focus on this.
Okay. Now, Adam, that makes sense to me, because I was really thinking, why am I sitting here being that girl that says this doesn't apply to me? Because I hate when people say that. Oh, this doesn't. But I understand that. That's a great clarification, because I would develop marketing for the $100,000 window treatment project as opposed to the guest bedroom that needs a wood blind for $500. Those are 2 different marketing, and they're all valid for me. Okay, understood.
Let me take us a step above this, something I probably should have talked about before. When you look at your business, you have to realize that eventually you either buy your business or you sell your business. Meaning you buy it as a cash cow. It works, and it should ideally largely work without you.
Right.
Or you sell it, you cash out, but obviously it's got to be able to function without you so you can sell it.
Right.
Either way, you want to work yourself out of your business.
Right.
It's something that escapes most professionals. They
I
just
love
don't
that.
get it.
No,
right?
I love that. I say that to people all the time. If you can't step out of your business, you have a you, not a business. That's what I say to people. That's a you. That's not a business. Right.
And part of the dream work and identifying it and identifying what kind of projects you want to sell it's a beginning step to realize, to start capturing your magic and maybe systematizing your magic. Because if you want to sell your business or outsource some of the work, you've got to realize that you have to have a repeatable process.
Right.
If you try to be everything to everyone again, it's hard to harness that process and create some repeatable magic.
Right.
You don't know what skills
to
hire. You don't know, what talent you need on board, and so on and so on. So this is, so again, at your place, you've got so much going on. Your business is a lot more complex than an average person's business.
Right.
Right.
And we are in the process of, I tell everybody all the time, my husband's a systems Nazi. So our systems have systems, honestly. But we are in the process of, like I said, with Kimberly, you know what I mean? Kimberly is fully becoming me. And, at many ways, she's already surpassed many of the things, that I have done or was ever able to do. We have different skill sets, but we have a lot of shared skill sets. And I'm having the most fun time watching her develop to the point that she can take a call or I can take a call. It doesn't have to be just me. And it's only the higher level, more intricate things that she needs to come back, and she'll sit down and powwow with myself and Billy and say, okay, how do I this and what do I that? But she's even capable of that. It's not like we're way past the point where we have to say, never mind, I'll just take care of that. It's like, no, we can sit down and explain it to her, and then she goes out and executes. So it's terrific.
So who is Kimberly? Is she someone in your business?
Yes, she's the interior designer that works for me, and she's, we call her, she's becoming LuAnn.
Got it. Perfect.
She is my duplicatable person.
Love it.
Yes.
All right, so let's go through the next couple of steps, and I think those are truly where the magic happens when they are answered the right way. So number 3 was our dream client, right? But here's a twist. Instead of just asking yourself, who do you really want to work with? Here's a critical question. Look, if you could only get paid after the client got results that you promised, what characteristics would each client need to have in order to make this challenge a total no-brainer for you? So I want to repeat this, but I want to clarify something first. This isn't that you're getting paid, that you're working for free, getting paid only once you deliver results. It is not. But if you were to put this as a challenge and you said, I can only work with people and I can only get paid after they are just ecstatic about the results, what characteristics would I need to see in my client to make that challenge a complete no-brainer? In other words, you'll be 100% sure going in, working with the client, going like, no problem, I'm getting paid for sure, because this is a total no-brainer to deliver on the promises.
Okay. So you're not suggesting that we enunciate the things that we think we are expected to do in order to be paid without question or objection. You're asking us to describe the type of client that once we delivered all of those things would just say, happily, here's the money.
Correct.
Okay.
What would you need to know about that client in order for you to go like, welcome home. I'm happy to work with you because you're going to be ideal client for me.
So let me just ask you if these are some of the things that are going through my mind immediately. And let me ask you if this is where you're going. So for instance, I'm thinking it's a fair-minded person. It is a person that understands that the design process is a give and take. It's a collaboration, and that they are as responsible for communicating to me as I am as communicating to them. It's a person that understands that the process will have challenges, it will have problems, it will have things that stop the production, but we're going to arrive at a solution, and they are willing to amicably and level-headedly get there. It's a person that recognizes that when we deliver something that they only previously imagined in their mind, they have gratitude for that and understand what all of it took on the back end in order for me and my team to produce that. Am I on the right track? Are these the kinds of things? Because that's what I want.
Absolutely. You see, this is where the magic happens. That this is way beyond the niche.
Yes.
It's really looking at characteristics of an ideal client, but then you want to start asking yourself, how can I decipher that that's who the person is? So like some of the things you mentioned is, they need to be solution oriented. They need to be a great collaborator.
Right.
They need to have at least somewhat of a vision. If they can't, or they need to be great communicator.
Right.
If they can't communicate, you can't read their mind. They need to be gracious about the whole process and grateful for what you create for them. Right. Very importantly, would you want to know things like, what kind of property size or property value do they have?
Right.
Very importantly, need to be maybe something like they need to be coachable.
Right.
One of the most important characteristics that people often leave from that little column, from that little space, is that they actually have the money to invest right here, right now.
Great criteria.
Money is not a struggle. They're not going to nickel and dime. They're not looking for the cheapest. They're looking for the best.
Right. Right.
How would you know that? So, for example, if you walk into someone's house and they live in a wealthy neighborhood, but they drive the cheapest car, they're probably very budget conscientious.
Right. And that doesn't make them a bad person. It just makes them, and it might be somebody's ideal person. Somebody might prefer the person that, like, I'll tell you an example. It's funny is when I went to get my last new car, it's 2 years ago now, I wanted a Prius. And I can't tell you the number of people that said to me, you can't drive a Prius. And I was like, why not? And they're like, you're in business 30 plus years. It's a multi-million-dollar business. Like, there's an image, there's a thing. Like, you can't do that. And I was like, guess who's getting it? Because I was out of my mind putting $50 worth of gas in my car every single week. Now I put about $30 in every 5 or 6 weeks. And I love that. It's not, and it's like, it has nothing to do with being able to afford it. It has more to do with now I have $80 that I can spend on something else that month that will move my business forward or, bring my family some pleasure or some joy. And it's the tiniest little thing. But there were people that discussed the image of that with me. And I was like, whatever. So the thing is
that's a whole different conversation because you've reached a place in your business where you don't care about being liked or you don't care about what people think because you know who you are and the value you bring. That's a beautiful place to be in. And I wish that there was a pillow we could, give to other entrepreneurs to get them there faster.
Okay. Well, anyway, and I was relating it to not just necessarily judging the mansion with the lesser expensive car, but you're saying it says a whole different thing about the person. Okay.
And again, I appreciate you bringing that distinction because it's one criteria, it's one assumption that I'm making.
Yes,
right?
you have to look around at everything.
Yeah,
yes.
you want to ask questions. So you will really, once you determine who this ideal client is, what their characteristics, you then want to translate them for yourselves. What do I need to ask that person to determine who they are. Mm-hmm. So maybe you can ask, listen, tell me about the last, home improvement project. What did you do? Did you have a landscaper? Did you put a garden in? Did you have, a house painted? Tell me about the last project. Tell me how you went about selecting the person.
Right. And if the answer is I went back and forth to Home Depot 20 times, and maybe that's not your ideal client.
That's a do-it-yourselfer. Right. Well, they may want, your free report on how to select the best colors, and they're done with you.
Right.
You really don't want to waste your time. So asking a few questions to decipher, hey, is this person really, do they have what it takes to become a dream client?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do they have what it takes to become a dream client? I love that. Do they have what it takes? Okay.
And then number 4, this is now an extension to question we just asked about who this person is. Now, same way of thinking. If you could only get paid after you deliver knockout results, the client is just jumping up and down, ecstatic about what you've created, what would be the 3 to 5 things or 3 to 6 things that you would have to do to ensure they get the results you promised?
So it's what I thought the other one was. So it's this is now where we're identifying.
Exactly.
Okay. The criteria in our mind for the best executed project we could possibly envision. Okay.
Now, this is your superpowers.
Okay.
Now, look, here is, how do I drive this home for your audience? Look, some people may truly be magicians when it comes to color selection. Right. Some people may have brilliant spatial orientation. They can feng shui at a place like there's no tomorrow. Some people couldn't do either one of those 2 things if their life depended on them, but they're brilliant at building the right team and managing the project. You have to know what your superpower is so that you structure all your projects so you can utilize your superpower and don't do the things you suck at.
Okay.
So, and by the way, another thing about this question is that these things don't have to be the things that you are the only one in the world doing it.
Right.
Like for me, I've got about 5 or 6 superpowers that I continually use. With most of my clients, I focus on 4. By the way, these do not necessarily. It's a little bit of combination of my superpowers and some sort of tactics or tricks or gimmicks that I've developed that I can deploy with each client and quickly get the results that I want.
Okay.
They're not the only things, but the ones that are most reliable, that I use most often, that predictably create the desired results. And, I've learned that other people do similar things, and I don't care.
Right. Right.
Because the world is so huge, there's lots of business out there. What happens is when you discover that, when you identify what are your superpowers, what are the 3 to 6 things that you consistently can deploy for each client, and then who are the clients that you can do it best for, what happens is you get just massive rush of clarity and confidence and the confidence to market yourself because you have the capability to deliver on your promises.
That's really pretty
So
deep.
if someone comes to you and kind of they're, wishy-washy, you're kind of unsure, but you say yes to that, you say kind of a timid yes because you're not sure, will you be able to meet their expectations. But when you know exactly what kind of expectations you can meet, you're confident to have conversation with clients, and in the conversation, you guide them to build the set of parameters that you can deliver on, then you become unstoppable. You will be very assertive in your conversations, very assertive in your proposals, because you're like, this is easy. I can do that.
Okay, so let me just see what I'm understanding here. So what you're saying is, if we use an example of a designer, if a designer is going to say, what are the 3 to 6 things that we started with the criteria that I feel must be completed in order for me to judge a project as successful and an ideal project. Okay. So if I were to say that I'm a designer, Sally Smith, and I say, well, personally for me, the project management has to be flawless. I have to know that my system is there. I have a system, number one, and I have to know that whether it's me or it's my team or whatever conjunction, my client, that project flows through my 10-step system, my 6-step system flawlessly. And that's so important to me that my team doesn't skip step 3 or that we fully execute all steps. So what you're saying is, if a designer looks in the mirror and says that's one of her or his things that she loves and values and says as her superpower, then what you're saying is, when they're meeting a potential client and they're having a conversation and that client says something like, well, my husband and I, we're very organized people, and I'm curious as to how do you guys handle a project and what's the communication like? You're saying because the designer is already understood, evaluated, and realized that this happens to be one of their superpowers, they just jump right on and go, oh, we're speaking the same language because my this and my system that, as opposed to just going, oh, well, I have a system. Like they own it differently. Is that what you're saying? And then when they hear it coming out, okay.
Yeah, there's actually another part. Once we build this, then we can take their number 3 and number 4, and it's translated into an approach we call a blank page pitch.
Okay.
And this is where you have conversations with ideal prospects, and it's so easy to guide them to a yes. And it's so easy for you to say yes to them. Like for me, sales conversations are really interviewing clients for a fit.
Right.
Are they a fit? Are they
Right.
not a fit?
Right.
It's a complete reversal to how most people view sales.
Right.
My clients don't come to us for me to sell them. My potential clients come to us for me to evaluate them, whether or not I am willing to take them on. And if it's a yes, it's because I'm 100% confident I can get them the results they want. And if I'm not, then I'll either tell them and we both agree on some lower criteria that I believe I can meet, or I will tell them, listen, I love you. You're an amazing person. I'm not the guy for you, or you're not the client for me.
Right.
And
I love that.
Yeah.
Because that's, we do talk about this a lot on the show about, having the strength and the courage and the conviction to walk away from a client that's not your ideal client and refer that person to a colleague, but not at such a level. It's almost like it's been a higher surface, a more surface level conversation. But what you're saying is really understand. When you really truly understand, I love what you just said. What are the 3 to 6 things that you feel are the most important components of a successful project? Whether you, like you said, it might be what I do. Like for me, one of the most successful components that is absolutely non-negotiable is that the installation is done the very best it possibly can. My window treatments and my awnings are installed to the point that someone can call me 5 minutes after an install, and this has never happened, but they could call me at 5 minutes after an install and say, this whole install was, a mess. Nothing went right. Your installer and I'm like, you're not calling about my company. Because I know that that's not how our installs go. Everything could be wrong, but it's not a mess. I mean, my installers, the way they perform, the way they act, the way they execute, yada, yada. And so that's a non-negotiable. And when we talk about and we quote unquote pitch a potential client, when I tell them about the things that they're going to get with the WindowWorks experience, one of the things that I say every time is, and I have a very seasoned installation team. Some of them, my partner has been with us, obviously the whole 30 plus years. I have an installer that's with me more than 23 years, another one more than 10 years. And I am not subcontracting this out to somebody else. And so that's one of our superpowers, is what you're saying. And that's one of our things that we believe is completely critical to a good project. And because I identify that and I know that, when I'm with somebody and they're like, oh, does my husband have to install this? Or, is installation included? I go right to all the features and benefits that come along with that superpower. That's what you're talking about, right, Adam?
Exactly. And we are just scratching the surface of it because of the time.
I know, I could go hours with you, I'm sure of it.
Of what goes farther into this. So look, when we talk about dream client, we talked about the characteristics that you want to see. Mm-hmm. But we could also ask now, what are the top concerns or desires of your dream client?
Okay.
Right. So, for example, concerns would be finishing the project on time and on budget.
Right.
Nothing really magical, but it is. Some clients may, and again, this is where you want to understand who is your ideal client. Do you want clients who give it to you and say, look, I want it done, come back and tell me when it's done? Mm-hmm. Or do you want clients who are continuously in communication with you?
Right.
Because if you understand that, and if you understand how you work, some people like to communicate, 7 times a day. Some people go like, give me the project and get the heck away from me and let me do my job, right?
It comes first understanding what's best for you.
Exactly. Because
I love it.
If you find a client that wants to over communicate and you don't like to communicate, you'll be miserable together.
That's right. It's horrible.
They will think that they will be so unhappy because you never told them they'll be happy with the end result, but the process will be miserable.
Right.
And now, so this is on the client's part. What are the biggest worries? What are the expectations they want to make sure that they are met, right? So now let's say that your client is one of those over-communicative type, control freaks that they want to be there every step of the way. Mm-hmm. Well, now when you think about your superpowers, you want to make sure that you emphasize the things you're good at. And if you're good at communicating, why not make that one of the steps that addresses your client's concerns? So the entire 6-step process could now become Sally Smith, kitchen or home redesign system, where we in 6 steps take your home from cluttered and uncomfortable to oasis of tranquility. Now, this is very different than you just say, I'm another, house, or the interior decorator. We say, I have Sally Smith interior decorating system.
Right.
This is very different. Now you have a system. People like systems. Systems indicate you're going to deliver predictable results.
Right.
And one of those steps was, and you can say, number one would be whatever, clarifying your vision. Number 2 would be identifying project steps. What if number 3 was something like, continuous design improvement communication loop, where we never take the wrong steps. And you can say, look, every project, when we translate vision into reality, sometimes there are course corrections we have to take. And we never leave you as a client in the dark. We have a process where you are always involved and we always make the right decisions we're all happy with.
I love it. And the thing is, there are designers that they are doing this, and what you're saying is say that you do it.
Exactly.
Express that you do it. Let
Because
them
if
know.
now you know who that dream client is, you're sitting with them and they say, when I'm really like the last project I did, the person was a total, they disappeared on me. They delivered, but in the process, I felt so out of the loop. I felt uncomfortable. I didn't know, are we on time? Are we on budget? I was like, I was anxious. And so you can say, well, so what I'm understanding you say is you really want to make sure that you're involved in all the steps, you kept informed, right? Yeah. It's like, perfect. So you just make notes. And at the end, you say, well, listen, this is how we work. And you say, and by the way, one of those steps is this continuous design, communication, improvement, whatever you call it, process. And you go, oh my God, this is exactly what I'm looking for.
Okay.
How did you know? Well, you just listened, number one. But number two, because this is your ideal client, and your system is based on your ideal superpowers, how you like to do business naturally anyway,
Right.
This is a perfect fit.
Exactly. And if it's not, if you're in a discovery phone call and you hear that and you're like, no, I'm the girl that likes to give you a status once a month, then you already know that this is not a fit for you. And then maybe you have a friend that you should refer this person to.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So for example, I don't do email. I hate email. So when clients come to me, potential clients, and say, well, so it's like when I have a question, can I email you? Well, I have to say, listen, I'm one of those guys that don't, if you have a question you want to email, we have an established communication benchmarks. This is how you send your questions to me. If you want to email me every time you have a question, it won't work.
It won't work.
I'm not your guy.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's funny because I don't know if you know Jessica Rhodes with Interview Connections. Yes, right. Her company functions with Basecamp. Well, I can't operate in it. I tried to do it 2 or 3 times. I cannot. It's like the first 2 weeks we were doing business together, and I literally came back to her and I said, if we can't do this through email, I'm not going to be able to do this. I cannot make Basecamp work.
So, LuAnn, can I boast a little bit?
Go ahead.
Jessica would not be in business if it weren't for me.
No way.
Jessica's dad, Jim Palmer, was in my mastermind group, and he was selling very specific thing. And he said, this podcast thing kind of, this. He was traveling all over the country. I said, dude, why don't you just, get busy and get on a podcast a day? That's what it takes. And, Jessica had her first child and kind of didn't know and what to do. And Jim kind of roped her in to do this.
Right.
And that morphed into an entire business because she
amazing.
created a system about it. I'm like,
that's
great,
amazing.
Perfect.
I knew the story how Jessica started in relation to doing it for her father, but I didn't know how he started in podcasting and how it all stemmed from you. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I love it.
Like,
that's the power of a mastermind, right? That's the power
it.
of a mastermind.
But
yeah, so that's the truth. So, and she could have come back to our point. She could have come back and said, our company will only, you can only interact with us through Basecamp. I'm not a fit for you then, is what you're saying. Somebody who only wants to communicate. Right.
Exactly.
So, but fortunately and thankfully for me, she was like, all right, fine, we'll do it the old-fashioned way with email.
Yeah. And, this is not this entire process is not to make you so rigid that you're completely not flexible.
Right.
But just be mindful that every tweak you have to make in your overall proven system creates potential for breakdowns. And, especially as your company grows, when you have clear established processes, it becomes easy for people to follow. It becomes easy to deliver on your promises.
And
that's
also,
systematically, automatically. Go ahead.
Right. No, and I to piggyback on what you're saying is it's in addition to being, you develop your systems for the things that are your superpowers, right? But it creates a dream business. Like I was looking for a word. I'm like, well, this is called the dream business
Which,
program.
by the way, Jim Palmer, Jessica's dad, wrote a book, Design Your Dream Business, something like this. He's has a whole thing about it, but absolutely,
Yeah, like it's so true because you're going to get up every day and you're going to run your business every day, 5 days a week, if not 7, like some of us. And why not take the time to figure out these very base level things, right? And then I love it. I think I have to say, Adam, I said it once a little bit. I just want to say it again. We have talked about it, but not, I don't think at this, I think we talked about it at, well, who's your ideal client? What car do they drive? And what this and what demographic and what target demographic are you going after? But this puts it on its head a little bit of starting with you. And really, I think the little eye opener for me was when you said list what you feel are the 6 things that you need to deliver in order for you to consider a project perfect. And the other was, what are the 6 things that your client needs to be like in order for you to feel like they would just turn over a check to you. You know what I'm saying? So those 2 were very clarifying for me. I like the way that you bring that out. And I say that on the show all the time. We can overlap the conversations, but sometimes just a different way somebody says something. Brings out a different thing.
This is a never-ending process. We just did there's a process called empathy map for helping you even farther define who are the ideal people, what language do they speak, and how do you communicate to them so you get their attention and you get their interest and they naturally develop desire for what you offer. And you think you do it once and you're done, you're mistaken, because industry, the world, everything is changing all the time. Your audience's sophistication level in terms of what they're looking for, how much they understand about your work, it changes all the time. We look back to this about twice a year, and we constantly check ourselves. Hey, do we need to make any tweaks to our superpowers? Our dream clients still the same? What do we know about those clients? Do they still seek the same thing? Has their message they're receptive to changed, right? Because every industry grows, and if you do it once and you think you're set for a lifetime, you're mistaken. You're going to be left behind by somebody who's younger, hungrier, and has a fresher approach than you.
Well, and because are you describing that there's 2 evaluations that you make, yearly or half yearly? It's one, have you changed? Are you looking for a different ideal client, right? That's one evaluation that you have to make, because that, of course, for me was very different 30 years ago as it was 5 years ago, right, as it is today. But then I think I'm hearing you say the other is, even if you still are in your same space of knowing your superpower and your ideal project, what you're saying is also just evaluate that same target client, your ideal client, is the same person, but you're saying don't forget to evaluate now maybe where they're looking for their information or what, because like say 3 years ago, the target client could be exactly the same as it is today for an interior designer, but they might find that client now on Instagram, whereas 3 years ago they wouldn't have. That's what you're saying. Stay current and right. You can't just identify yourself and them and then go off into the sunset for all of time, because the whole world is changing around and the where people find their information and messages changing. So you have to keep going to find them. I like it.
Exactly. So let me take you through the last 2 steps really quick. They're super easy. Number 5 is super easy. Those are your dream numbers. So what you want to ask yourself is, how much money do you ideally want to make from that offering each year?
Okay.
And then you want to ask yourself then a sub question, which is, how many of those dream clients or dream projects do you need to generate each month to generate this income?
Okay.
So, you had your numbers from number 2, your dream income per client. Now you want to ask yourself annually, what's the total I want to generate from this project or from this kind of offering? And then how many of those dream clients do I need to generate?
Okay.
And again, in some industries, and for some of people listening, they may go like, I want $10,000 projects, and every project is kind of a cookie cutter. Pretty much every project is around 10,000. For some, it may be that you have a range between 15 and 25,000, or 5 and 10, or whatever it is. But approximately, you can approximate it as close as possible, so you actually have a little bit of a path. You start translating them to that number 6 becomes, what are your attraction activities? What 3 to 6 marketing activities you need to focus on daily, weekly, and monthly basis? Because marketing is not a one-time activity; it's a process, right? So if look, LuAnn, if we looked at your audience and we took an average person that listens, we woke them up in the morning and said, look, you need to have a client tonight. Would they know what 3 steps to engage in immediately so they know at the end of the day they have a client? And for most people, they don't have that kind of clarity.
Right.
And if you don't, then you become overwhelmed. You become sidetracked by bright shiny objects. Some stuff comes in your email, goes like, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you should be. And truth is, all of those ideas work, but you have to realize all of these ideas require time to master, and all of these ideas require time to get traction. So you want to focus on 3 to 6 that you religiously do. Invest an hour a day and you do your 3 things. An hour a day, you do your 3 things. And I promise you, in a week, 6 weeks, 90 days, your business is completely transformed by having this type of clarity and consistency and continuity.
Wow. That's pretty deep. So the thing is, what you're saying is, like, for instance, when we identified earlier in the conversation how I literally probably have multiple ideal clients, right? So what I understood, it was so funny that you brought in the attraction activities, because when you were first saying, what do you have to do? Like, what are the dream numbers for each of these clients, right? For me, I'm thinking multiple. What is the dream number that you want to get from each of your ideal client? I immediately went to, if I were going to identify the high-end luxury interior designer that I only get $100,000 window treatment products, I would market that differently than I would to the person that is in Livingston and needs to do their guest bedroom. But then what I further said to myself is, and I need to think about devoting my marketing dollars in that ratio too. Hello. Right?
So LuAnn, look, this is where let's just make it even more clear for people. If you have a one track business for right now, you're solo designer, listen, folks, I promise you, your life will be so much easier. Please become a one-trick pony.
Yes.
And right. I know it sounds so weird, but look, there is a reason LuAnn, do you offer anything else besides window treatments?
Just window treatments and awnings. I mean,
you don't clean gutters, you don't paint the living rooms, you don't.
No, Kimberly convinced me to put wallpaper in the showroom, but I have strict rules around it. No hauling wallpaper books out. No 19 visits to sell wallpaper. They come to us, they pick, she helps them. That's it.
That's it. Become a one-trick pony, and people will become clear what to come to you for.
Right.
Now, there is not to say just like you edit wallpaper. Once you have them in-house, there are a couple of things that are peripherally related, and if you choose to bring them in, great. But be careful not to lose sight of your core competency.
Right.
But now here's where I'm really going with it. So let's say that in your business, you are beyond one-track sale, meaning you have different
tiers.
Revenue. You have different tiers. So one of your sheets could be designed for $100,000 projects.
Right.
And you could say, look, we want, 10 of those a year.
Right.
We want $100,000 projects a year. What does it mean? What do we do for $100,000 projects? Who are the ideal clients? If we want, if we want $1 million revenue from that, that means we need one a month approximately, right? What activities do we need to involve to land one of those a month? And then you start thinking, I need to have this many leads. I need to have this many proposals or whatever, however your sales process works.
Right.
But now check this out. You've done this, and let's say that you did this 3 years ago, and you're doing this great. Now, 3 years later, you repeat the process, and you ask yourself, wow, this is still great. I still want to have $1 million revenue from that. But you know what? I would love to show other interior designers how I do what. This is now my passion. I love this marketing. I've grown. So now I have a second dream business design worksheet where you say, look, I love this marketing thing. I love to take interior designers and turn them from, struggling wannabes to thriving and interior design entrepreneurs.
Right.
And I want to make $10,000 per client. And here's who the dream client is: someone who's making $50,000 a year as an interior designer, and they want to make $250,000.
Wow.
Right? And they bring this and this, and they say, and here are my superpowers. Here are the 5 steps, or 6 steps, LuAnn's interior design marketing system that you take them through. And you want to make, $100,000 a year this year from it. So you're looking for 10 clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what are the activities?
Right. Right. And the designers can relate this to their businesses too. Maybe, it just is. I love it. I love it. It's just getting very clear. And we say it all the time, but this is, Adam, you're very clear on how to get clear.
Yeah, it took me a while, but thank you.
No, I love it. I mean, honest to God, I know that I could probably talk to you for about 20 days straight. I'm just saying. Yeah. It's awesome. And the number of topics that you are skilled at talking on. I mean, we just took one process, and I love this process because I do think it's very helpful and very relatable to interior design business. I mean, I'm sure it goes across many platforms, but it's funny because, I do the Power Talk Friday, Adam, because I specifically like to bring in people like yourself from other industries that because I'm always out in the other industries. That's how I learn. I'm always out in all the podcasts for all the other things. And I started by thinking, I'd like to tell them about this. I'd like them to know. And then I thought, hello, it's your show. Do what you want to do. Put it on Power Talk Friday so you can share this with everybody. But it has been somewhat challenging sometimes to translate the information to our specific industry. And I thank you because you did a really good job at it. I really do feel that you did a fantastic job at helping us understand these business practices and principles that are generic, but driving them back to how we can utilize them in this industry. So that's a particular zone of genius right there too, Adam. I'm just saying.
Well, thank you. I appreciate this. And, right back at you, LuAnn, I think it's so commendable that you bring this information to the industry, because it doesn't matter if you're speaking to interior decorators or designers or consultants or coaches or insurance agents. Mm-hmm. What happens is most of us, I'm sure you were in the same place. I know I certainly was when I started. I was what Michael Gerber, the EMF guy, calls the technician suffering from entrepreneurial seizure.
Yes.
It's like I was good at something, and most people think if I just get better at the interior, if I just get a couple more designations, if I just get more training on the color palette selection, then people will be flocking to me. Right. No, you have to become better entrepreneur, better business owner.
Right.
And your business will only grow as fast as you grow as a person, as a human being. And for most entrepreneurs, they focus too much on tactics, and they look at the colleagues in the same industry and copy the tactics. What you really want to get better at is become a business strategist. Look at the big picture. Look at the psychology of human behavior, and just become curious about people. And one of my successful clients nowadays just spoke at one of my events, and she said, when I started, I adopted this philosophy: people first. People first. I'll listen. I'll be tuned in, and people will guide me what they want from me, how they want, what wrapping they want to put on my gifts. And it takes courage to do that, but when you do that, magic starts happening.
It's awesome. It's so awesome. I'm so grateful to you. I have to tell you, I truly am. I hope everybody liked this. Even if they liked it 1/10 as much as I did, we're good.
Thank you so much.
Now, just before you go, though, tell people how they can learn more about you and what you're doing and the coaching that you do and all the stuff that you've got going on.
I appreciate this. I always make a joke. Just look up Marketing God, and I should come up in Google. And then I wake up, right? It's like I'm not that grand. Adam Urbanski, like Urbanski, SKI at the end. If you type in Adam Urbanski Marketing, I should come up. Or just go to themarketingmentors.com. Look me up. I love Facebook. Look me up on Facebook. If you listen to this, send me a message to say, hey, I listened. If something stood out, send me. I would love to hear from you. Oh, that's fun. I love talking to entrepreneurs.
Oh, thank you so much. I can't tell you how happy I am that I had this conversation with you. I just feel so fortunate. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, LuAnn.
Thank you for joining me again today for another episode of A Well-Designed Business. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks in Livingston, New Jersey, your trade resource for custom window treatments and awnings. Learn more about WindowWorks at www.windowworks-nj.com. All of our music is original music by Room 2 Productions. Please contact us if you want to learn more about original music for your business or your events.